Welcome to Parents Tool Talk Radio with your host, Jody Johnston Powell, licensed social worker, certified family life educator, second-generation parent educator, and author of the award-winning book, The Parents Tool Shop, the universal blueprint for building a healthy family. For over 25 years, Jody has been training parents and family service professionals nationwide and serving as a parenting expert to the media worldwide. Now, through the Parents Tool Talk show, Jody shares her practical advice and introduces you to other experts who can give you proven, effective advice on the issues that matter most to parents. So get ready to be informed, entertained, and enlightened as we join Jody now.
All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Parents Tool Talk. And today we have a holiday theme, and I'll be introducing Mr. Santa here in just a minute. But I do want to just welcome everyone, remind you that if you want credits, if you're attending live, just type into the chat that you want a certificate. If you're watching this on the recording, just follow the directions in the course, and we'll be happy to give you a certificate. So first of all, let me introduce Steve Makofka, who's my guest expert today. And actually, Steve and I are collaborating and co-authoring. We plan on doing quite a variety of future resources related to parenting and his expertise with working with folks who are in recovery, both parents and kids and all that. And we meet every week anyway. And right after Thanksgiving, we met, and he shared with me something that he had shared elsewhere over the holiday week. And I said, that is awesome. I loved it. And I said, you got to come on. I know we missed Thanksgiving, but we're having another webinar before Christmas. And so I asked him on short notice to come in and say, oh, do that for us. So I'm really excited to introduce again. Steve's been on several times before, but I'm introduce again Steve, and I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more. Whatever professional information you want to give, I'll let you go ahead and share that, and then I'll actually stay on camera or off, whatever you prefer, and I will let folks in and monitor the chat.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, stay on, and we'll see if we can always get the technology to do what it's supposed to do. Yes. But yeah, so I have a kind of a church faith pastoral background, somewhat retired from that, been working inpatient mental health with adolescents and adults and recovery and co-occurring diagnoses and all of those things. But actually, I was looking at my background here, and I do have a family picture right there. And so a lot of this material has come out of the professional work, but also just the personal work and doing family and doing holidays together. My mom just, she counted up her clan, and my parents live around the corner from me. Then I have two daughters that live about a mile or two away, and they have kids and they have the families they've married into. So my mom was saying that her clan, if it's like her and my dad, and then my brother, my sister, and I, and our families, and our kids, and our grandkids, which would be their great grandkids, her number's up to like 36.
Wow.
So getting everybody together for the holidays is just not going to happen. We've moved into a life stage of making adjustments, and then my kids have their kids, and then they have the extended families that they've married into. Both my daughters married into very large extended family networks. So if we're watching my grandson play soccer, we could have 15 people, on the sidelines, just between the two families showing up to be supportive.
Wow.
All of which is great. Until you start trying to manage the holidays and getting through how do we do this in the best way possible. So there's a lot of research, a lot of experience. I've been sharing this material with people in recovery for several years now. And there's a whole different dynamic when you're going to visit family and you've changed or they've changed or there's been trauma in the past, and all of those things come with you to the table. And
And dysfunctional families, with or without recovery, can also bring drama to the table. Even if any kind of addictions aren't involved, there people can be kind of addicted to their drama and dysfunction at times. So, so yeah, sometimes
well,
they
well,
bring it too.
the whole addicted to drama thing. Um, Most people don't recognize it until you say a phrase like that, and then they're like, "Oh my goodness, there's somebody at the table who's like that," or it could be us. We're, like, who's bringing the drama to the table, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's me, and there's we'll get into this. This shows up at several times in the PowerPoint slides.
Okay.
Um, but very often, and we start here, very often we're part of the problem, and having the insight to say, I figured out what part of the problem is, and it's part of it's me. Now, there's a humility that comes with that. And then, but why I like that is if I'm part of the problem, then I'm part of the solution.
Yeah.
As long as I'm feeling like this is everybody else's problem, then I'm going to try to control other people and get them to behave the way I want them to. And then I'm going to build up expectations, and then there's going to be frustration. So, in healthy relationships, the only person I get to control is me.
Yeah.
But that's very empowering. And to say, wait, I can stop doing that and start doing this, and that's going to work better. So that will show up as we get into the as we
Great.
get into the
Great.
PowerPoint.
Because we also are having planning holidays right now, and something happened last night or so, and my husband looked at we kind of looked at each other, and I said, "Is that normal? Like, is that just our family that's doing that? I don't know what normal is," but we both were like, "Yeah, I don't think so." So, and when you have aging parents too, you get a whole other dynamic that starts playing
Sure.
into things, which we won't necessarily go into, but we'll just kind of talk some of those general patterns.
Well, and that differentiation you made, is this normal for other families or normal for our family?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and knowing the difference, and knowing, well, I don't know if that's normal for other families. Yeah, that's normal for our family. Or when life stages change, well, that's new.
yeah,
So when you add kids and grandkids and great grandkids and aging parents, we're doing the same thing. We don't have our family holiday plans set. We're in the discussion.
hmm,
And like, my parents have moved from wanting to host and have everybody at their table to not wanting to do that, and then wanting to be invited. And this year it's wanting to be invited with the option of saying no if they don't feel up to it.
yeah,
So that's kind of new
yeah.
of them at the last minute. They may say, "Oh no, we're just," or they're not going to stay as long. Or so it's healthy relationships grow and change.
Yeah.
And psychological flexibility is the ability to recognize and respond to those changes.
Yeah. Yeah. When both of my parents are divorced, and actually both of my husbands are also. And when my stepfather died, and my mother became a widow, I didn't want her to ever be alone on a holiday. So I needed to sit down my parents and say, you know what? It's been 30 years since you've been divorced. Time to grow up. We all need to get together
Mm-hmm.
and play nice. And they top parenting classes and did e-groups and all that. I mean, so they had the skills. This wasn't outside their skill set to be able to do. And they have, and we have gotten together all the, family together now, even his side. But we don't have 36 people, so it's a lot easier. Still big, but a lot easier. Anyway, I will let you Because yeah, I kind of want to see more with your slides, and I've for those of you that are on here, I've previewed these just a little bit, and I'm excited to get into them. He's got some great tips.
Okay,
Great.
so let's see. We got to get to the slide, and we have to start from the beginning. And my computer runs slow and doesn't always do what it's told.
That's okay. And I had that video to show, so you weren't able to cue that up ahead of time. But that's
Uh,
okay.
Here we go.
Nice.
All right. So everything's working and looking good. And we start with this picture of that family moment that nobody wants. But if you watch comedies and holiday romantic comedies and going home and visiting the family, I think everybody comes at this picture like, who is that guy and what's he saying? And how did we get there? And then you see that great variety of responses, like, oh my, here we go again, and we've got some finger pointing and explaining, and a child who just really doesn't even want to be at the grown-ups table this year. Like, really, can we go back to the kids table where it's fun?
Yeah.
And so we talked about three mindset shifts of how we prepare ourselves for a good holiday. And I came up with this inspect, expect, and respect. I'm a word geek. So SPECT is to look, spectrum, spectacular, all of these. So when we have that perspective, how we look at it makes a huge difference. And as we go through this outline, we're going to start with inspect yourself. I use a lot of ACT therapy, which is awareness of thoughts and feelings. So we're going to start with looking inside. What am I bringing to the table? What's going on inside my head? We're going to inspect ourselves first, because that's where we have the power. That's where we have the control. And that's our responsibility. Nobody can do that for us. And then the second one, expect the usual. Well, what usually happens? Well, we're going to expect that to happen. Now, that doesn't mean it will happen, but we at least have some perspective on that. And then we're going to get finally to the respecting others, because very often we want it is about us, but it's not all about us. We are wanting to get together and engage in healthy relationships with other people. So in light of that, let's start with the inspect. Inspect yourself, connecting with your own values. And this is a huge part of mental health. Asking yourself, why am I doing this? And I like to throw in the discussion question of, don't go. You don't have to do any of this. And in Congress, oh yes, I do. No. Yeah, but if I don't, then bad things will happen. And it's like, okay, let's look at some of those things. What would happen if you just decide, I'm not doing it? I'm not going, I'm not getting together, I'm not making the phone call, I'm not buying the gifts. We're going to start and just, if your family has accumulated a lot of toxic traditions, like you hate the holidays, and I'm a reformed Grinch. I really am. This is kind of new, just because coming up with some toxic family traditions, and do we have to do this? Do we have to go there? Do we have to see them? You know what always happens? Can we not do this? No, we have to do this. Yeah, we've worked through a lot of that, and that's good to recognize it, embrace it, and work through it. Nobody likes to feel trapped and powerless.
Yeah. And I would say I've been the opposite, where I did so much and did everything, and everyone looked to me, and you know, what are we doing this year? And everything was, and so I needed to look at respecting myself. And when I
Hmm.
changed what I did and realized why I was doing it, and said, I'm retiring. As of January 1st, 2020, I'm retiring as the kind of official, everyone that looks to family planner. And it's like you change the dance, or you step out of the dance, and
Yes.
and there's like this kind of disequilibrium that happens. And here we are heading into 2022, 2 years later, and there's still, so Jody, I'm retired.
Yeah.
So it does. It takes a while to adjust when we do make changes.
Yeah, and building, building the skills. Like we've done a bit of a generational shift from my mom to my wife, and now my daughters are picking up a lot of it. But when you give up control, you have to change expectations.
Hmm.
So if I want it to be my way, then I have to accept the responsibility of doing it. And if
Yeah,
I give like you have the responsibility of doing it, then you get to do it your way.
that's right.
And if I have an expectation, then I have to accept the responsibility. Is it all right if I still do this? You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
um, so in asking, why am I even showing up? Why am I taking responsibility? Why am I trying to control things? What's going on in me? Do I want to hold on to that, or do I want to release it? And if we release it, they say, well, if I don't go, I'll feel guilty. And families and holidays are just laden with guilt traps. So we have to work through that and go, oh, wow, I'm going to go so I don't feel guilty. That's a motivation. It's not a great motivation, uh, but it'll do. If I don't go, somebody will be angry or disappointed. And again, that's a mental health thing. If it's all right for people to be angry and disappointed, if I don't go, there'll be negative consequences. Very often, and we talked a little bit about the passive aggressive thing. When families are tightly woven together and there's significant fabric or financial dependence or living together and all of those things, that's a realistic expectation. Like, well, if I don't show up, then they're going to do this, and I can't really afford to them to do this. So I'm going to show up for that reason. But at least we're moving from being coerced and manipulated to choosing.
Yeah.
I am choosing to do it to avoid a negative consequence.
Yeah.
Okay, again, not a great motivation, but it's still, we're moving from
Sometimes.
powerless and manipulated to I'm making a choice to do this and I know why.
Yeah, and just the fact that you're aware of it helps you feel like you are able to control it more on your end, not controlling others. Likewise with the guilt in the, guilt, somebody may even throw a guilt trip on you, but that doesn't mean that you have to accept that.
Right.
And you don't have to guilt yourself. You can choose not to do that. Disappointment means that someone had an expectation. That expectation might have been unrealistic. So a lot of this, even though it may be other people doing things to us, which would kind of be our phrase of that, we don't necessarily have to choose to take that on. And
Right.
that's why I see a lot of your wording there kind of relates to that.
Yes. Yeah. So and there's all sorts of yeah, all sorts of realities, but we've, so much of family is making the best decision you can with the resources and the information that you have, and then seeing what happens. And very often, it's like, well, I had a good plan, had a good motive, it still blew up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yet with family relationships, we'll work through it. It's not the desired outcome, but we'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the inspecting yourself, but moving from um, negative motivations to positive motivations. I'm choosing, I want to go. I want to be the person who shows up. I want to be in the picture. I have a gift that I'm excited about giving. I've put thought into this, or this is the person I want to be. I love these people. We get on each other's nerves. We drive each other crazy. There's been issues, but when it comes down to it, I love them. They're important to me. I want to step up and I want to do this. And I've added this slide. Holiday visits are part of a relationship, not a substitute for a relationship.
Yeah.
Okay? And again, in my family setting, I have constant contact with all of these people just about every week. So the holiday is a part of that relationship, not a substitute for it.
Yeah.
When people are doing, okay, I'll do the holiday thing and then we don't have to talk to each other again for a year, is that the relationship that you want? So I don't know. We have some people on. I don't know if there's comments or chats or anything going on. And we do get to the point of relationships, relational growth and individual growth have to happen together.
Yeah, that's kind of the changing the dance with someone that you're in a relationship with. You end up stepping on toes if you change your dance. Yeah. So they have an expectation that things are always going to be the same, and they don't. They do change and grow. Especially if we're trying to make good decisions for ourselves that are healthier decisions than maybe falling into old habits or patterns or dysfunction or whatever, you realize that's not a healthy dance. You do it very well, but it's not a healthy dance. And you don't want to have an unhealthy dance anymore.
Well, there's a lot of pictures in holiday movies where like the person's bringing their new person to meet the family over the holidays, and then that person reverts to who they were in high school because they've grown and changed, but the relationship with the parents hasn't. So their bedroom is still decorated with their trophies from when they were in high school. And the new person in the family dance knows their new host, but they don't know who they were. And the family knows who they were, but doesn't know who they are now.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of drama that produces comedy or tragedy,
or a combination of both,
or some combination of that.
Dysfunctional comedy around the dysfunction.
And then add in some deception. We're going to try to get through this while hiding the truth and the reality, and a comedy of error ensues. So that's all under the inspect yourself. When we get to the expect the usual. Realize the usual difficulties. I almost brought my Captain Obvious hat because there's a lot of Captain Obvious quotes. Unless something changes, everything stays the same.
Yeah.
So in making preparations for it, well, unless something has changed, things are going to be the same. But they're not going to be the same if something has changed. Thank you, Captain Obvious.
And really, people are always changing, or at least those of us who participate in these kinds of activities, we're all about self-improvement and learning and improving ourselves. Yeah.
So in expecting the usual, realize the usual difficulties, unrealistic expectations of trying to make everybody happy is not going to happen. Even if you pull it off, the cost
to yourself
is so high that's why we get tired of it. It's like, you know what? I'm going because I love these people and care about them and want to be there and want to be a part of the relationship, but it's not my job to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
There are people who are coming into the picture with tragedy, with trauma. It's been a tough year for everybody. There's fatigue. So I can let them know that I love them, whether they're happy or not. That's on them.
Yeah.
The manipulations of various family members, even the little ones, and sometimes we assume the manipulations are coming from the generation above us, but oh my goodness, manipulations can come from the members below us, the younger ones as well, and just acknowledging everybody wants something out of it and is using the techniques they have to get what they want.
And I interpreted that not age-wise, but in terms of how big of or obvious of a manipulation it was and how maybe subtle or little it was. But so that's interesting. I interpreted little ones differently, but I think they both apply to what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, even within the range of a healthy family, oh, we do it. We just have to acknowledge when we're the oh, okay, that was me.
Yeah.
And then I put sibling rivalries and competition.
Isn't it
Interesting
amazing how
dynamic.
we go back? I do the sibling class and have the whole sibling tool set, and when I do 6 weeks, we have time to dive into our own issues and how that influences. But I still always start with people at least reflecting on their own sibling relationships because it relates, even if you're an only child. But one of the comments is, when you go back to family, if you were the baby, you are always the baby. It's like these roles and labels just stick, even though we've become, grown up, full, whole people. It's like you said, we kind of go back into these roles and labels again.
It's interesting. Both my daughters bought houses this year, and they're both hosting at various times and love to do it, but they're very different houses because they're very different people and they have very different families and very different marriages, and the houses are about 3 miles apart. So it's going to be interesting, and I have to be like like there's a fine line as dad to walk through,
Yeah.
without getting caught in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's something we're aware of. So it's going to be interesting. I have no idea how it's going to play out, but
Hmm.
it's new and it's different, so we have to factor it in.
And you're aware of it. So
And
you're
we're aware
less
of it.
likely to accidentally step in a pile as opposed to knowing that maybe you need to tiptoe. And so you just have more awareness during that so that you don't accidentally do something.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to meet the unmet needs of other family members, where you get more of that when we get into the 10 traditions. Um, some of them we're aware of, some of them not, but there's a limited ability to meet those over the holidays. And then the whole expectations of bringing up unresolved issues from the past. That's just, some families do it, some families don't. It's almost inevitable because you want to talk about the past.
Yeah, like reminiscing and you remember this and
Reminisce.
that.
But we'll get to that
Yeah.
again with one of the other slides.
Yeah. One of
Um,
my friends is going back west to family and all the families out west, but there's been some rifts between her kids. And we had a whole discussion yesterday, and I recommended she come today because she's like, well, I don't want to get in the middle, but we're not going to be able to talk to each other. And one of the siblings isn't going to go to the other one because, and so it was like that. Well, do you want to bring it up and try to, yeah. So and you said you're going to cover that later. Yeah.
so we have the usual difficulties, but we release those and embrace the usual opportunities. And again, moving into a positive goal and a positive, like, I'm going to spend time with people that I care about. Are they going to tell that same story they always tell? Probably. Are they going to do that thing they all? Probably. But I'm ready for it. That's part of who they are. Building new positive memories, embracing things changing and being different. Um, the holidays is part of maintaining your family support network. You know, the poet, I think it was Robert Frost, family is the people who, when you have to go there, they have to take you in. And so when there's a crisis in the future, we work in the holidays to prepare for that. And to say, hey, we had a good time, we spent time together, we talked, we shared, we ate, we did all those things. And then this last point, go with the goal of giving and the hope of receiving something good.
But
So
not an
that is
expectation.
not an expectation. I'm going because these are people that I care about and I want to be a part of their lives. So I'm going to contribute. And if I receive something good, that's good too.
Yeah.
But it's an exchange of in that relationship of giving and receiving. Releasing and embracing is the rhythm of life. Inhale, exhale, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that, and then we did the inspect, we did the inspect, expect. This is the respect, and this is our challenge to accept people for who they are and where they are. Yes, they are not going to change to suit our needs. No, and if we're the one trying to do that, then we're the toxic one. And it's like, maybe this year this person will be who and what I want them to be. And if the other person's thinking the same thing about us, then we're setting ourselves up for a toxic conflict. Why, why can't you ever, why do you always, and again, that shows up. And then balancing the personal growth and change with relational growth and change.
Yeah.
Individuals change. And when individuals change, the relationship, the me, you, and us type of thing. This is me. I would like to be accepted for who I am. I'm going to give you the same. I'm going to accept you for who I am, and then we'll figure out the overlap. What does us look like this year?
Yeah. And accept, and this is something I have found acceptance difficult at times. And one of the first shifts I needed to make is that accepting doesn't mean agreeing with. Like
yes.
you can accept that someone is that way, even if you don't like that they're that way. You come to accept that is what it is, and maybe you choose to change yourself or how you respond or whatever, but that you don't keep fighting trying to change them. And that's where acceptance can bring us forward to move forward in that, even if we're not happy about it or don't like it.
Well, I use a lot of serenity prayer. Serenity to accept, courage to change. In the tool shop, we've got the change it or accept it or remove it. And there are times when it's like, I just, I can't change it and I can't accept it. Then I'm going to have to, like, this is the year I go, I love you all, but I'm not, or.
And it can be an emotional removal. You can remove yourself, but not only physically, but emotionally also. I'm not going to allow this to bother me to, this time or whatever. I'll still go, and yeah, sometimes you don't feel strong enough to do that, and maybe you choose to physically remove yourself. But yeah, and abuse obviously would be something that you can't change. It's unacceptable, and you need to protect yourself by removing yourself from it. But yeah.
Yes, and that's healthy. And, Lord willing, Christmas comes around next year, and you go, hey, you're in a better place, or I'm in a better place, or, it's how we end up with new traditions.
Yeah.
Because we discontinued the unhealthy, toxic traditions that everybody hated, and everybody got mad at each other, and everybody got hurt, and everybody cried and yelled. Yeah, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
We do something different.
Yeah. Or at least I'm willing not to. Will you work with me so that we don't have to? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our 10 holiday traditions.
Great. And I'm going to pop a question into the chat here for folks to share in the chat. What is a holiday tradition your family has? And it doesn't have to be, necessarily anything related to dysfunction or relationships, but just what is a tradition you have?
That for mine?
I popped that into the chat, so I mean anybody can answer that. Yeah. Sure.
Well, and I did bring the little we call him Bubba the Redneck Santa. Entered our family in the 90s, I think. And it was a Christmas present, and he dances, and it's Christmas when he shows up, and this was a gift to me from my parents, and then my kids grew up with it, and now their kids are growing up with it. We play the song through once, and then it's like, okay, stop, just turn that off. We had a holiday tradition for years of eating Christmas breakfast at a Waffle House, listening to Grandma got run over by, and it was a tradition out of necessity, because we had Christmas Eve responsibilities as a pastor, and then we would try to travel, and no place was open, and so we did it for several years. This is a year for a lot of new traditions.
Yeah.
We're going to do a lot of new things, and the ones that work we'll do again next year, and there'll be one or two that we're never going to do again. Yeah. But that's how traditions develop.
Yeah. I think our tradition, one that's actually gotten carried down through the generations, is that my aunt made a little felt. It was long felt, and it had a little hanger on it. They hung on a door, and there were 24 buttons on it with little yarn in it. And you'd tie them up at the beginning when you hung it up, and then every night I would untie one until you get down to Christmas Eve, which is a little bell.
Hmm.
And so when I had grandkids, I passed that on along with some other traditional family. And so now my granddaughter does that. And my grandkids come over. And my daughter likes to also help decorate not just the tree, but I have little elves. My mom had elves in our house, not creepy elves on a shelves who are watching you. Like, watch the other holiday parenting issues webinar about why not that. But
Yeah.
just cute little elves, and then the kids get to hide them or sit them up. And then at the end of Christmas, they get to come back and say goodbye to the elves, and we pack them up. And so it's just kind of a fun thing that they like being able to pick their elf and where they get to put it. So we have folks are kind of quiet today,
Okay.
but feel free. You don't have to come on camera or even unmute, but go ahead and type some things into the chat here so we know you're there. Maybe some holiday traditions you have. And Steve, I'll encourage you to go ahead and move through your 10 holiday traditions.
All right. So this first one was the don't be a turkey. And we've referred to this. This is kind of a summary. Whatever your best is, bring it to the table. You want after the holidays to have your self-respect for recovery, people that are dealing with those to have the recovery intact and your personal growth and go, you know what? I like who I was. I liked the way I handled that. I liked what I said. I didn't, that thing that I thought I shouldn't say it. I didn't say it. I was there. I was present. Um, you know, Nobody likes us at our worst. We don't like ourselves. Other people don't like us. So if we're tired and stressed out, um, you do you, but do best you. Wherever you're at, bring that to the table. And if you think it's going to go bad, it's okay. We do plan exit strategies.
Mm-hmm.
With some, it's like I'm going to plan something after this because I'm pretty sure I can do an hour. I'm not sure I can do more than that, or all day. But just saying this is on us. I'm going to like who I am. I'm going to do what makes, I'm going to bring my best to the table because I deserve that and other people deserve that.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, like, don't be a turkey. Don't let yourself be the turkey. And very often, you'll see this. Don't let people cut you down, slice you up, pass you around, take a bite out of you. Very often, there's like those childhood roles of the problem child.
Yeah.
And very often you show up in family settings and the problem or the scapegoat, or
Or the
all of those.
dragging up embarrassing things that you used to do and saying it in front of everybody and embarrassing you in front of
Yes,
everyone. Yeah.
yes. So there's a time, and we had shared some material on passive aggressive people and how to know if somebody's just being insensitive or passive aggressive and calling them on it and saying, wow, that really hurt. Or, yeah, I know you enjoy telling this story. I don't enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
And the person will either kindly say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know, and respond with kindness, or they'll respond with a passive aggressive, and then that you have to you have to defend yourself, maintain good, healthy boundaries. Could we, say no? Could we not tell this story? And then if it's going to continue, then that exit strategy of going, well, go ahead and tell the story. I'm just going to like walk away,
Yeah.
and let the situation continue without you.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I will go ahead in the course. I will add links under the resources to the article I have on passive aggressive. If you've got something else, send it to me.
Oh, the
I'll
one
add
you
it to
had is
there.
excellent.
Yeah. And I'll add the audio that I've got on this particular topic too. We'll add that to that, include that.
Okay. So if it happens, ask to change the subject. Number 3, no fixes. And I've done some extra research on this. Don't try to fix people or relationships over the holiday. It's probably not the right time or place. Good things can happen. And if good things happen, accept them. Like the person who maybe is a bit passive aggressive this time is not, and they're coming with some kindness and some reconciliation. You're like, oh wow, that was really nice. So you stay open to that, but you don't try to force it. If you want to fix something in the relationship, do it before or after. but not at the table with everyone there. That usually doesn't go well. And I've done some research on like people coming out, or I have this big announcement to make. Um, Probably not the right time or place for that.
Yeah.
So unless it's like really good, but even those can go sideways in a hurry.
Yeah.
So we just like before or after, but probably not during. But it's always okay to tell people you love them. You know, hey, you know what? I've taken some people for granted. I've presumed on some people's grace and mercy. I can say things that make things better. But I'm not gonna drop the bombshell at the dinner table with everybody there. That generally doesn't work well.
Yeah.
Put away the knives, for the dinner. It happens when you're telling stories and sharing, and people that you're close to who know you very well. If somebody says something cutting or hurtful, don't retaliate and hurt them back.
And that's hard. Take your deep breath.
Yes.
And if you have to take 2 or 3, I mean, sit on your hands and bite your tongue and take those few deep breaths, because that's hard. I am really not a revengeful person. I really don't have much, and that usually isn't my first go-to, but I'm in such shock sometimes that just getting my brain online, you kind of have that where your brain flips its lid and you're having this stress reaction.
Yeah.
And I don't want to cry and I don't want to be mean, and so just taking that breath to kind of bring yourself down. And it can be hard, if you got some triggers there, that can be hard.
I like the word wow. Like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And when we feel attacked, the natural response, defend myself and counterattack. And just to say, no, I'm not going to do either of those things.
Neither one helps, and nothing's going to solve it maybe, but at least we cannot add to the hurt by contributing to it and making it a two-way thing. Yeah. And that could be a different dance too that they're not used to.
Yeah. Like, wow, that really hurt. But okay, I'd like to stay. If you need to leave, walk away with dignity and grace. There is a time, and I've been at dinners where I've just had to like fold the napkin, put it on the plate, and just go, I hope you all have a good evening. I'm going to have to walk away now and just
I go to the kitchen. I go to the kitchen and I start like doing the cleanup. And if I'm really hacked, I mean, I'm really angry, I get in there and I clean everything. And it'll be at the end of the day, it's like, oh, thank you so much for doing all the work. And I'm like, oh, you have no idea. Like, this was such or I'll just get up and like, if there's a topic that I'm like, okay, don't want to be part of this, I'll just go to the bathroom. And sometimes I think people are going to think I have a medical issue because I'm getting up and going to the bathroom so often.
Well, and if there's a dog or a cat, don't play with the dog or the cat because they're good. Well, dogs usually, cats 50-50, But
that's a good stress reducer too.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, number 5 is stay out of the suitcases, and the idea here is everybody brings baggage with them. Just don't go. Just leave it alone. Don't go there. It's okay to talk about good times and pleasant memories, but one person's good time can be another person's painful memory.
Yeah.
And to not be surprised by that. And then be careful of the words always, never, and should.
Don't should on people.
Yep. Yeah. As soon as I'm conditioned at this point, as soon as I hear one of those words, I do go into like defense mode. Like, okay, be careful what happens next.
Yeah.
Because those are generally going to take us someplace that we probably don't want to go.
Yeah. I like
that. Okay, there we go. Number 6, learn to make a family from scratch. And the idea here is, first of all, don't be alone if you don't want to be. But sometimes for certain people, certain years, that can actually be healthy. Just like,
as long as you wouldn't be lonely, if you want to be alone, and if you don't have friends to invite in, which can be a nice distraction if that's your thing, but there's plenty of other ways of being of service and helping others that will bring you around other people. Yeah.
I saw a beautiful meme on I'm enjoying my solitude, not my loneliness.
Yeah.
And just to put some space in there and go, I don't have to be with other people all the time. I can be by myself, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And there's a freedom that comes along with that. Um, and then make some new traditions. There are some people who go, um, my wife, I wish Lori was here to help with this because she has such additional perspectives on this. But she and I both grew up in families where we did not know in advance who was going to be at the table.
Oh, okay.
Because our parents were very much, it's like, hey, you don't have anybody to spend the holidays with.
Oh, that's nice.
You're coming with us.
Uh-huh.
I can remember coming home from college and there were people that I didn't know at the table, some of whom did not speak English,
Oh,
which was like, okay, just let me know. Yeah.
yeah.
But making those new traditions with the people, finding the people who function as healthy family, bringing them close, finding the
Yeah.
people who are toxic and hurtful and harmful and negative, and putting some distance in there.
Yeah.
That's healthy.
Yeah. I can remember one or two times where family was going through a really rough time, and it was really, I mean, it was pretty traumatic on me. And I just arranged to go to the beach for a week
Yep.
and worked on a book. I was working on a book, so it's kind of a quote, easy excuse. Still stayed in touch with folks, but it just kind of took me out of the mix. Yeah, and who can be sad at the beach, right?
That's a deep sad when you're sad. When you're
Yeah,
sad
if you,
at the beach.
even if it's 40 degrees and windy, you're still at the beach. Hey,
Yeah.
that's an Ohioan saying that, folks. Remember, we're from Ohio, so
Yeah. Okay. So the next one, bring something good to the table. We talked about this. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And again, as a reformed Scrooge, I have to watch myself because I can go to deep dark places, in my
well, and
mind of
you have a sense of humor too, and your sense of humor is such that if someone doesn't know you very well, or if there's just something different about the tone of voice, somebody could maybe misinterpret it. But you have a very funny sense of humor,
yeah,
that I would imagine someone who's not used to that, or from another family, or maybe who is from another country or speaks a different language, and I'm not using you personally, but it's just an example of how, yeah, we don't always know how we're coming off. So when you do try to make sure that you're treating people the way you want to be treated, then we're more likely to be conscious and aware of how we're saying things, what we're saying, and how we're saying it.
people who have married into the Makofka side of the family will sit at the table and they'll look around for cues like, was that okay? What was, how
Okay,
was that? And then
no
we
one's
have to
crying,
coach them.
everyone's laughing. This must be their humor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that comment was actually related to what this person said 4 minutes ago, and that person was thinking about it. So no, it wasn't related to the latest thing, and we just have our own style of communication. And yeah, we try to bring the best
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
of what we have. Give the love, grace, forgiveness, respect, and kindness you want to receive. Once and again, in our family traditions, a lot of people bring, especially who's making the corn casserole, who's bringing this and who's bringing that. So you want to bring your best dish to the table always.
Yeah.
Trying out the new recipe over the holidays,
Yeah.
that can go either way. Same with relationships and
Yeah,
communication.
that's a great analogy.
Number 8, hold on to your self respect. Don't relapse or revert. Don't allow others to make you someone you don't want to be.
And that's
Um,
hard. Those and you know as well as I do, because you that's why we are partnering on things, but the subconscious programming that we get from our families is so deep and so entrenched, because especially 0 to 6, everything gets directly downloaded without our cognitive interpretations and talking ourselves out of, oh no, they didn't, and so it's so easy for those things to just hit us on such a deep level, where the reaction to that, or the interpretation that we internalize and allow it to affect us, is so subconscious, and that's operating 95 to 97% of the time. It will take over. So it really does take that conscious effort
Oh,
to move
my
forward.
dad called me out on this just on like a conversation we are having. He goes, "Oh, reliving the past, are we?" And I'm like,
Okay.
yes, we were. Yeah. That emotional response came from 30 years ago. It did not come from the actual event. And touche, but
Uh-huh.
we can have those conversations now
Yeah. Yeah.
and work through it. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. So number 9, holding on to the relationships. Having is the goal. Don't say or do anything that's going to have to be undone after the holiday. But if you do, make it right. And again, it's that connection between the holiday, the relationship, and the individual growth. And
Yeah.
keep all of those things connected through the year so that the holiday becomes the best part of it, not a substitute. So
Yeah.
you can be driving away from a family gathering and going, yeah, you're gonna have to apologize for that later. And it's like, yeah, I know, you know,
Yeah.
leave some space, get through the new year, and then the next time, and it's like, oh, sorry about, or maybe they will, or forgiveness, and all of those things that make relationship healthy
Yeah, and
continue
modeling
with
that.
that.
I know people who they think they're apologizing and it's just an excuse.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. This is why it's okay that I did that. Is
yeah,
kind of the underlying message to it. So modeling that and being the bigger person, taking the high road, which doesn't necessarily mean that you have to accept or allow abuse or mistreatment to take the high road. You can take the high road and say, I'm not going to lower myself and allow myself to be treated that way and model that. I forgive you, for doing that.
yes.
Yeah.
In recovery, they call it cleaning your side of the street.
Yes.
Like I have taken care of my business on my side of the street, and that's all we can do.
Yeah. Right.
Um, and then the last one we have on this is the being thankful, and that's we just did that with Thanksgiving, but really a lot of gratitude. If you knew this was the last year you were going to get to see these people, what would you do? What would you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
And so going in with that, yes, it takes a lot of effort, it's a lot of planning, it's a lot of communication. There's a little bit of risk, but how fortunate so many people would love to have what I have. So the happiness isn't getting what you want; it's wanting what you have. That thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like I get to do this, and I'm going to embrace it in all of its highs and lows and ups and downs and idiosyncrasies and all of those things that make family quirky. Yes, I am grateful for it, and I'm going to embrace it.
Mhm.
So we have the one more slide that I put on here about the if you get triggered, and we have a file, and we can include this if anybody wants it, just as a separate thing. I'm going to run through it really quickly, just as a response to if you get triggered, if somebody says or does that thing that just sets you off and you go straight into fight, flight, freeze, fawn, fold, however many there are of them now. um, the grant me the serenity, accept the things I cannot change, courage change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. You talked about it. Take your breath. Okay, if it's a trigger from the future or the past, we just let those go. It's like, I'm here at the table with people that I love and all this stuff. I'm going to focus on the here and now, looking inside like what just happened inside my head?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? They're just thoughts and feelings. They're mine. I'm aware of them. Embrace it. Acknowledge the thoughts and accept the motion. Avoidance will get us in trouble. We open up to it. It's like, wow, okay. So this rhythm of life, inhale, exhale, embrace and release. I'm not going to avoid it. I'm not going to pretend like it didn't happen, but I'm not going to hold on to it either. And the analogy we use for that is, how long is a good hug? It depends. How long do you hold on to it? How long do you let somebody hold on to you? It's embrace and release. Connect with your values, what really matters, what's important to me right now. Is walking away important right now? Is leaning into it important? Are the kids looking at me? Saying, oh, what are they going to do? What really matters? And then getting to that next right thing. What are my options? How much do I want it? Is it worth it? And if we can get to that rational brain of the important thing right now is that I do this and not do that.
Yeah.
Then we're still in control. Then we're still in the game. Then we're still able to contribute to the healthy long-term relationship, and not sabotage ourselves or the relationship or someone else.
Yeah. And the first, let's see, I would say about the first three is just or actually the first two is getting that stress reaction back down out of the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, all of those easy peas.
Yep.
Getting that, not only the logic back online, but also the emotion. So you've got your primitive brain that needs
Right.
calmed down, your emotions that need, kind of regulated, that then we can hopefully do some of these more logical decision making things towards the end of that. So it's great that this is such a great coping card because it really walks. If you do it in order, it really helps to do that in order.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, do you have the? I may have a different slide deck than you do. I've got one that has some of your contact information on the last slide. Do you
Oh,
want me to put
I
that up?
yes. Go ahead and put that up because I
All right.
don't think I have that one.
Okay. You go ahead and
I will stop screen
yeah,
sharing.
stop sharing. Then I will share and go to. Oops. Here, let me. Oops. Sorry, I moved my screen over to another place. So let me share the screen. I'm going to share this one. And let me go over here and do from current slide. Oh, I thought I was doing here. Sorry, folks. Let me just slide all the way down. There we go. So in the
Thank you.
handout,
Yes.
yeah. And then in the, oops, I don't need to have it transcribing. Let me turn that off real quick. There we go. And in your handout, I made these actual links that you can go ahead and click on. This is Steve's recovery book, Family Recovery. I have it literally right next to me almost all the time. And just even if you have no addiction, that concept of recovery, just in terms of healthy family relationships and trying to heal things from the past, it's a wonderful book. And so so I really do encourage you to get that. So we've got he has a course that's in our e-learning library. The ebook is there. The book is also in Kindle in print through Amazon, and so I've got links there. And Steve was kind enough to share his email with you in case you want to connect with him around any questions or anything else that you might have. So our audience has been kind of quiet, but I'll give you all, a final chance here as we are kind of wrapping up and into our final minute or so. Whether or not anybody wants to offer maybe some takeaways, or Steve, I want to give you, and here actually I'll stop sharing and we'll just both kind of come back on video. So any final comments that you want to share?
I have a kind of a motto that life is hard, but life is good. And embracing those two things together. And so that would be my takeaway on this is a lot of this is very, very complicated, very, very difficult, and occasionally very, very painful, but it's so worth it. Putting in the energy, the effort, making mistakes, doing the not just addiction recovery, but relationship recovery.
Yeah.
Of maintaining good healthy relationships with people that we love and care about is so essential for mental health. We tend to be a little bit individualistic. We do the individual and the diagnosis, but once you get into mental health, it goes from psychology to sociology very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's an essential part. We have the opportunity, during the holidays to step back and look at some things and gain some perspective. Yeah. So figure out that next right thing, do it, and see what happens.
That's
It's
great.
worth it.
Great advice to end with. So I want to thank everybody for coming to join us in person today. Everyone have happy holidays, healthy holidays, both physically as well as mentally and emotionally healthy holidays. We look forward to seeing you in the new year. And we'll have lots more webinars coming up in the following year for all parents like this one, and also for foster adoptive parents or parents with children who have a trauma history. So take care, everybody. Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
There we go.
I'll leave that
All
as
right.
our outgoing. All right, thanks everybody. Take care. All right, bye now.